Hey, welcome to Dripping Stone Podcast, the podcast for two friends, raise a glass, and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
I'm Kyle.
Kyle.
Yes, sir.
Today is Wednesday.
Again.
And we find ourselves here.
Again.
With a bottle.
Again.
How's your week?
It's been great.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just played golf this morning.
We did.
We went to try to go have some German food. Didn't work out.
Nope.
Came back here having some drinks.
Yeah, we recorded one episode where we did a blind.
Oh, yeah. No, that was last week.
No, I know, but we did all that stuff last week again, too.
Oh.
We record these back to back.
Right.
This is our second episode. Yeah. Okay.
The classic second episode. So
Correct.
We're going off the rails.
Yeah. Everybody realizes that when we have our second episode, they're like, oh, they've had a few drinks.
Yep.
A little fast and loose with the words.
Yes. Fast and loose.
So, Kyle, this week,
Yes, sir.
we have got a bottle from the Heaven Hill Distillery.
Man, we just had a lot of Heaven Hill.
We did last
a few
week.
seconds ago.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, last week.
Yeah. Right. This is the Larceny, the John E. Fitzgerald Larceny Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Cool.
Established in 1870.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is a
Awesome.
wheated mash bill bourbon.
Weeded mash bill.
Yep. This is a whiskey that a lot of people kind of point to if you can't get your hands on like a Weller,
Right.
you can't get your hands on, definitely can't get your hands on a Pappy, like, and you want a wheated bourbon experience, Larceny's a pretty decently priced wheated bourbon.
Go for it.
Most of the bottles I've seen are somewhere in that $25 range.
Right.
Give or take.
Yep. Unlike that highly sought after Larceny barrel proof.
Oh,
that is
yeah.
usually like I know where I could get a bottle right now, but $120.
No.
Yeah. Based off of the pour we're about to have, maybe I'd be more inclined to think maybe I do need to go get that bottle.
Maybe.
But
Have you had this before?
never.
Really?
Never had a taste of Larceny.
Well, you're in for an experience.
There you go. Have you?
I have, yeah.
Oh.
I have. And honestly, I don't remember a whole lot of it.
There you go.
But this is a gifted bottle, Kyle.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a gifted bottle from friend of the show, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, and so Ben gifted us this bottle, and we're going to jump into it. You want some bottle words while we're thinking about it?
Totally.
All right. John E. Fitzgerald's weakness was fine bourbon. Well, I mean,
Same.
as a treasury agent, who at the time was the only person legally allowed to carry keys to the rickhouses, he gave in to temptation, freely taking from the best barrels in each rickhouse. Those that contained wheated bourbon, bourbon made with wheat instead of the traditional rye, these eventually became known around the distillery as Fitzgerald barrels. Now, Larceny Bourbon honors both the superb taste of this lawless treasury agent and the legacy of the old Fitzgerald brand.
Cool.
There you go.
Good words. Crack it.
You ready?
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Thanks. That was definitive.
Yeah, that was a pop.
Real cork.
Good on.
Just in case.
Touch class.
Touch my ass.
No. Pour the glass.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All down the front of my shirt.
Did it?
Pour numero dos.
Ooh, that's quick.
Yeah. Gotta get in the glass.
Yeah, that second pour is like, gotta get in. Gotta go. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. What does the bottle look like to you?
I mean, I know it's supposed to resemble a keyhole.
Keyhole, yeah.
But it doesn't.
It kind of does.
It's more guitar
Sort of.
shaped.
It is kind of guitar shaped.
Yeah.
It represents a keyhole. I think that works.
Well, I mean, not really. There's a keyhole on the front, which is why I say that. It's nowhere like rounded like that. It's more guitar.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's supposed to represent a keyhole, I think.
I think it's a guitar. All right.
What do you got on the color?
It's bourbon colored.
It is bourbon colored.
Yep.
Indeed.
Not leaning light, not leaning dark. Just kind of
Right there in the middle.
right down the pipe.
And honestly, like when I think about just a bourbon, one that's around, $25, this is kind of what I expect. Something in that range.
Yeah, totally.
What you got on the nose?
Honey and wheat.
Classic honey wheated bourbon. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it's to me, it's like a little bit of a dusty wheat.
Sure.
Do we know age statement? There's no age statement on the bottle.
I don't see an age statement.
Interesting. No, there's not an age statement on here.
I'm seeing the 92 proof.
Yep, it is 92, 46 ABV.
You said Heaven Hill?
Heaven Hill.
Man, I feel like it nose is like a Jim Beam. I'm getting some nuttiness.
Little bit of peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
I just get like dusty wheat. Dusty honey wheat.
Honey Nut Cheerios?
Honey Nut Cheerios. Every time I think of a wheated bourbon, I always go back to Redemption Wheated. And like for me, that is the hallmark of a wheated bourbon. Like that's what I think about.
Sure.
And this has a little bit more spice notes to it. There's like a little bit of spicy edges, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, it smells what like I expect a weeder to smell like. if you hand
Wheat? Like wheat?
Well, but yeah, no, I get like the dusty field, like wheat field, and a little bit of peanut. Not gonna lie, a little bit of peanut.
All right, I do have a rough mash bill for you.
Okay.
Yep. Somewhere around 68 to 70% corn, 20-ish% wheat, and 12% malted barley. 10 to 12% malted barley.
Not a drop of rye.
No rye at all.
There you go.
Yeah, and that's why I bring that up. It's because like I'm still getting some spicy notes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, interesting.
All right. You going in?
Sipperoo.
Me first.
Okay.
Oh no. You go first.
It always is. You always go.
I do.
I always wait till I take a look at your reaction first. I would still say Jim Beam. I would not guess Heaven Hill on that.
No, there's a little bit of a peanutty note there. Yeah.
A little bit of a beamy note.
Beamy note. Sweet. Like
really sweet.
Easy going sweet.
Yep, really sweet and some spicy notes to it. There's no way that I feel like 92 proof should bite as much as I feel like this is biting.
Yeah, but
so I'm attributing it more to like a spicy element.
But when you think of like 92 proof, not super bitey in proof wise. But then usually what you get is a rye note that like provides that spiciness.
Right.
That's what I'm really interested in here is that you get all the super sweet, weedy notes that I expect out of a wheated bourbon. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting this spice that like I don't know where it's coming from because there's no rye in here to give me that spice. The proof is only 92. Is it like the proof is such that it's just enough to cut through the sweet? And like that's where we're getting the spice? That is interesting.
And it also it lands on like the drier side.
Yeah.
It's almost like a dry, like gives you that kind of mouth feel of like a dry wine.
Like I need a drink of water.
Yeah. Like your palate's almost like grainy.
Like there's something else I need. Yeah. And that's a good point. Like there's not an oily mouthfeel. Mm-mm. It's actually really kind of thin.
Yeah.
And it leaves me like wanting a little bit more on the mouthfeel. Like there's not enough.
Yep. But at the same time, like I didn't have high expectations.
Sure.
And I feel like I'm kind of more surprised on the positive side of, I think it's a really nice nose. I think the flavors they're sweet. There's no bitter to be, thought of at all. So there's no kind of like balancing act. It's just on that sweet side, but not bad.
I could see where this would be a great kind of introductory bourbon as a whole. Or if you wanted to even say like a great introductory to wheated bourbons, because there's nothing in this that you're fighting with. There's nothing in this that's going to push you, like you're going to have to search for some sort of flavor notes here. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Straight through and through.
Sweet and wheat.
I would recommend this to anyone who is like starting their bourbon journey, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
Because the 92 gives you enough of a proof where you're like, all right, there's some things to think about here.
Right. There's got a little heat.
Yeah, little heat.
Little pop of heat.
Yeah. That's been well documented in my nickname in college.
Yeah, little pop of heat.
Yeah. But there's also, there's nothing like super challenging. And that's what I think like someone who likes this Larceny is going to, probably tell someone like, there's nothing about this, we don't like the word smooth, but there's nothing about this that like, you're like, man, I got to fight some things here.
Right. And that's what's actually kind of like surprising to me is like knowing that the Larceny Full Proof is such a sought after bottle, like such a unicorn bottle that for this to be as one note as it is,
yeah,
like I don't necessarily feel like jacking up the proof to 120 or something is really gonna dramatically change the experience. Right. Other than it's 120 proof, so you're gonna battle that.
I like this. My problem is it's in a weird category for me because I'm thinking about price wise. Okay, it's anywhere between 25 maybe $30 somewhere in there. It is a wheated, so you're gonna get sweet. The proof is not that such that it's challenging, which is I tend to like that a little bit more. But also, like, it's on the sweeter end, so I don't know if it would be a good mixer. I don't know where this has a spot on my shelf, like, continually. Now, like, in terms of it being a gifted bottle, and in terms of, like, I'm going to enjoy this bottle, for sure. But, like, would I need another one? I don't think I do.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to throw it in a blind.
Right.
With some other wheated bourbons.
Ooh.
Which we could probably do.
I think we should.
Just to kind of see where does it land? You know, like where does that land against a Maker's Mark or a Redemption or a Weller?
Oh, that's a good point.
You know, like see where it hits and see if the flavors that are coming through, how do they react to those other wheat bitters?
Maybe I'm a little doing some premature judging here. Maybe I need to wait for that blind and see what happens there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a good point. I like that.
That nose is pretty great.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You know, I'm thinking about like maybe it's where I am right now. Like I want a little bit of a challenge, and this isn't challenging at all, which is not a negative.
Yeah, no, it's one note, but I feel like we say the same thing about Weller.
Mm-hmm.
Of like it's one note. Mm-hmm. It's a good note, but it's one note.
Yeah,
There's just not much else going on.
Do you think that that's a characteristic of wheated bourbons because you don't have a rye?
Maybe.
So wheat is going to present the sweet,
right?
And corn's presenting sweet,
right?
And malted barley's presenting sweet.
So you just have nothing else to kind of balance it out,
right? Maybe that's it. I mean, like the beauty of the rye, in not just a high rye bourbon or anything, but like the beauty of a rye in something is you're getting those like spicy,
cinnamony, something else to think about.
Licoricey, piney notes.
And there's no bitter barrel coming through.
No.
Yeah, it's just sweet.
Yeah.
And dry.
And dry.
So
sweet,
strangely
sweet
dry. Like my palate is so dry.
Well,
it's like sandpaper.
It really is. I mean, you got some water right there.
I know, but I feel like the water is just going to like slide right over it.
Sandpaper.
So weird. Yeah.
You know, I think about like a sweet wine though. Like a sweet wine generally isn't like dry.
Right. Yeah. It is like a weird pairing of experiences.
Yeah. We got our drink today, Kyle.
Yep.
What are we going to talk about?
Saw a really cool video.
Okay.
It was like this like actors round table, but it wasn't just actors. There were like some directors in it, but definitely had Tom Hanks and Jamie Foxx and Adam Sandler. Like it was a really eclectic group.
I was going to say that's
people.
a good mix.
The kid from Transformers, and he was Mutt in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Shia LaBeouf.
He's there. So yeah, Adam
That's
Sandler.
What I was thinking you're trying to refer to. And I was like, what?
Adam Sandler, Shia LaBeouf. It's a weird group of people, but the little clip that's going around from it is Tom Hanks making the point of more or less just kind of like things might be bad right now, but give it time. Just wait.
Okay.
You're going to get through it. Things are going to get better. But at the same time, if things are great right now, just wait.
Things are going to get bad.
Things are going to change. And you think you know everything now, just wait. You probably don't.
Was this prior to COVID or was this?
I think it was prior.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen it actually like kind of make the
rounds
a couple of times at this point. But it got me to thinking about just different times where I've thought about how it is it's necessary to go through bad times, because if you don't go through bad times, you don't have the proper perspective to appreciate the good times.
Right.
And just that kind of concept of embracing the bitter aspects of life.
Yeah.
Embracing the bitter aspects of a drink. Usually tend to balance it out, and it makes it a better drink. Larceny lacks the bitter, and so maybe it's lacking for that. But no, just the idea of embracing that bitter.
Yeah. So when I think about this, it's something that I think we all deep down know and need and want, but it's something that we don't want to want. And what I mean by that is like, nobody wants to have tough times. Nobody wants to struggle through things.
Right.
But I'm thinking of almost every major lesson in my life has never been accompanied by something I've done well or a good time. It's always like, wow, that kind of sucked. Or like, man, like this is a tough time. And I think as I've gotten older, it's recognizing that like, yes, this situation sucks and it's not fun, but I have to embrace this because I come out better on the other end.
Right.
Actually, a friend of the show and I were talking about this kind of thing, and he brought up a guy named Steven Rinella. Does that name sound familiar at all?
Not at all.
So some of you guys will know. Steven Rinella, he's a conservationist. He's a hunter. He's a writer. He's most popular for his show Meat Eater. And it's on Netflix, and it's on like Outdoor Channel or something like that.
I've definitely heard of it.
Yeah, it's really good. And even people who aren't hunters, I think people who are outdoorsy at all would benefit from watching it. He talks about like his hunting stories. And he says like something to the effect of every good story I have involves some sort of bad thing,
Right.
some sort of bitter thing. Like, we were out there and we were hunting elk, and it was, it was blowing 40 and it was 0 degrees and we're all frigid
Miserable.
and freezing and miserable. But man, we made it through, and what a great time that was.
Right.
And in the midst of that, it's just hell.
Right.
And in the midst of any bad time, it's hell. But on the other side of it, you look back on it, not to say that like, man, that was a fun experience, but look what we've gained in terms of knowledge. Look what we've gained through this experience, what we've learned about ourselves.
Right.
But I think that like we have to be willing to embrace the bitter because of that.
Well, I mean, it's like the old adage of, if you're always satisfied and you always have everything that you want and everything that you need and desire, then nothing has relevance anymore, and you lose perspective of like what bad things are like. Or I'm pretty sure it was the story of the Buddha,
right
of that he was this prince living in a castle and everything was always provided for him and he had everything that he ever wanted, and his father made sure of that because his father grew up through hard times and he never wanted his child to have to live through such hardships, so he made sure he always had everything. And then at some point in time he sees what the world is actually like and how bad it can be, and he looks at himself and it's like, I have no reason to have all this lavishness and be surrounded by such fine things. I'm going to give it all up. And it's finding the balance between those two states of being, of finding that sense of balance. And if you don't have the bitter, and if you're not willing to take it on and accept those hard times, you're never going to be able to fully appreciate the good times.
Right.
Because you're not going to have that sense of black and white.
Right. Well, and I think like this whole, the kind of the understanding of embracing the bitter is first forced upon us. And what I mean, I have a quick story. So when I was a kid, my dad would drink just black coffee. Mm-hmm. So, generally, and I don't know if this is your experience, but for me, it was like around the age of maybe 12, 13, 14, where I'm like, I'm becoming a man. My dad's a man. I should drink coffee too. So like having that experience of, I want to drink the coffee. Okay, well, there's no milk right now. Not because we couldn't afford milk or anything. We could, but like there's just no milk in the house right now. So like,
we got no cow.
Yeah. If you want coffee, you're drinking black coffee.
Right.
So it's like, for me, I distinctly remember my dad used to live in Virginia. He actually moved back to Virginia recently, but he used to live in Virginia. And I remember standing in the house in Chester, Virginia with a cup of coffee in my hand going, oh God, this is so terrible. And like, man,
but I'm a man.
Yeah, but I'm going to drink it and it's good. And then like, you kind of like your palate becomes acclimated to it.
Sure.
And why I bring this up is like initially that bitter. So black coffee is bitter.
Right.
Initially that bitter just sucks.
Yeah, kicks.
Because we're not used to it. Like we don't want it.
Right.
But eventually we kind of both acclimate to it. And yes, in a taste palette, but the metaphor in terms of, our experiences, we acclimate to it and then we almost seek it out. Because in some ways, like we live our lives as children, just having either naivete or like we have good experiences. Like for us, everything's a decent experience. Like literally like a Christmas morning, like everything could be burning down around us, but it's still Christmas morning and it's perfect.
Right.
But then we start to like see the cracks in this and we start to like notice the bitter. And I think like we have to embrace that and start to learn how to embrace it pretty early on, or it's to our detriment because we have no idea how to actually deal with it. Now, yes, for me, like the metaphor with coffee, like, and I love black coffee, but it's because I've learned to love it. The same way I think we have to learn to love those bitter moments.
Well, and I know I've said it probably on multiple times on different episodes, but it's that you talked about like as we grow up as children and everything is always happy, or at least it's attempting to always be happy. And you don't want to have to eat your vegetables and embrace the bitter. You want to just have the things that you want. And that's like the challenge that I've always thought of within parenthood is like finding those moments where I can safely let my child experience bitter and have to struggle for something or, be disappointed and things like that. Because like your initial instinct is, oh, I can fix that, or
Right.
I can solve that thing for you really quick. But then you don't learn, and the best thing that I can do for you in some instances is to let you struggle through that and to watch you grow through it. But it's incredibly difficult to to do it at the same time. The whole concept too is like very reminiscent to me of like that old adage of like, the best part of a headache is the second it goes away.
Right.
And it's like that instance, it's like when you've had a few too many larcenies and you feel awful to the point that you need to go put some of the larceny out of your body. And you're dreading that moment. You don't want to go do that. But then as soon as you do it, there's instant relief.
Right.
And you just feel so much better. And it's through going through the bad experiences that the good experiences have so much brighter influences on you.
Right.
There's the other old saying of you can't paint a masterpiece without using a few dark colors.
Sure.
That's from a movie somewhere, I know.
Or you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs.
Yeah, it's the same adage of like, the brights are going to be brighter when they're right next to the dark.
Right.
And there's the Batman one. The
I live in the dark.
no, it's something like the dawn is brightest. No, the sun is brightest right before the
It's always darkest before the dawn.
darkest before the dawn. Maybe something like that. Yeah, those sayings of contrast.
Right.
And if you're always only looking at bright things, you're never going to be able to adjust to the dark. Like you flip that switch when you got the light on and you turn it right down to darkness, you can't see a thing, but you let yourself sit in it for a second and slowly things start to, make themselves apparent.
I think what we're really talking about here is the dichotomy of human nature, that light and dark, and that we have to thrive on both. It's that, that the yin yang, like you have to have both sides. And the embrace the bitter aspect is not a battle cry for like, be fine with bad things, only look at bad things, be okay with it. I don't think it's that. It's recognize, much like, the Tom Hanks video, recognize that like bad things are going to happen. Things are going to go wrong. It's how we deal with those things that really defines who we are.
Right. And give it time.
And give it time. Right. And I think so much of what we do today is knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
So much of what we do, and that's also human nature to some degree too. I mean, we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. But it's a knee-jerk reaction to an experience of like, this thing is going wrong. How do I solve this thing and make it not go wrong, rather than, okay, this thing is going wrong. How did we get here? What's going on? How can I solve it? And that's so hard to do. And I recognize it. That's so hard to do in the moment.
For sure.
And that takes a lot of resolve, but that comes from that embracing of the bitter, of recognizing that these things are necessary for growth.
Right. And I think it's, making yourself get into the mindset of accepting the challenge. Like, yeah, this is hard and I'm not happy in this moment, but this is a moment. And, if I will stay positive,
right,
and continue to push forward, opportunities will present themselves, or things will change and adjust in a way that's going to make the situation better. And when I look back at this moment of how unhappy I am right now, it'll make me appreciate my new circumstance that much better.
And let's be clear, I don't think what we're talking about is like clinical depression, because that is a medical issue in terms of like something you need to seek medical help. I think what we're talking about is more along the lines of, my day very quickly turned to shit. Right. And I recognize that happened.
Right.
Like, I'm not a depressed person, but like, it's going wrong. Things are going wrong.
Right.
What do I do? How do I learn from this? What do I take away from this?
Well, and just accepting that was today.
Right.
And tomorrow will be different.
Correct.
Like that sucks that this happened today and it's made this an awful day. But let's not let it ruin tomorrow.
Right.
Bottle it up, That was today.
Right.
And let's move forward, and tomorrow will be better.
But I think it's also that recognition of like, yes, I've bottled that day. Let's say I bottled that day, but that day still exists. And I think that's such a huge part of it too, where it's very easy. And again, we all do this of, that day was today, or that day was yesterday. It is now gone. It doesn't mean anything. We're past it. We're done. But that's also not how things work all the time. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is like, okay, this day was today. It sucked. That doesn't mean that we can't refer to it and kind of like come back to it and think about it, but we have to learn how to do that. We have to be able to say, okay, Tuesday sucked. Today is Wednesday. What can we learn from Tuesday to make Wednesday better?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I've worked at jobs where you can have an absolutely horrible day. And as the day goes and it gets bad, I see it all the time where it makes people worse. They get more frustrated, and then their job performance just goes on an absolute nosedive because they're letting that moment affect the rest of their day.
Sure.
And that's 100%. That's tough. But for me, I think of it in terms of trying to create like this mental barrier where it's like, you give yourself like 10 seconds. Okay, like be frustrated as hell about that for 10 seconds.
Right.
Okay, cool. Now it's done. It's in the past. Nothing's going to change it. And I can't allow that to continue to affect the way that I continue to do my job for the rest of the day.
Sure.
I've got to move past that. And, and if that continues to happen day after day after day after day, then yeah, you got to start looking for those opportunities to change something else.
And I think that's part of the embracing of the thing. Like, and that's that recognition. First of all, this is something bitter.
Right.
Not just, and again, I know that we're kind of mixing metaphor and reality, but like this experience is a bitter experience. I've had a bad experience with this customer. I've had a bad experience in this particular area. I need to embrace that. I need to learn something from it, or I need to, okay, that was my 10 seconds of hell. And how can I come back to that later? Because right now I can't deal with it, but I can come back to it later. And then I can learn something from it. And maybe that's something that you've learned from it is simply like, these things happen. It all can crumble down really quickly. And then what do I do from here? And I'm thinking like in a service job, you could have one bad table, and that one bad table could like just ruin your mood, but you've got to then put on the happy face when you move to that next table. So like, or you can literally let that bad mood continue, like you said, continue from table to table, which then ruins everything.
And I just look at it in terms of, it just provides perspective.
Right.
Because that bad day now becomes like a landmark for you.
Sure.
And in a couple of weeks, you have another bad day. And you look at it, well, it wasn't as bad as that day. That day was awful. Right. You can't get any worse than that. Until it does. Right. Maybe someday it does get better, or it does actually have a worse day than that day was.
Yeah.
But now that's just the marker. So now that was the worst day ever.
It's the peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a valley, it's okay. On the other side of this is going to be a peak. Right. If you're on a peak, be aware that there's going to be a valley.
Yeah. I feel so bad when I see people just like, they let a bad situation just completely engulf them.
Right.
And they're not able to just like compartmentalize and just move beyond it. Like, yeah, man, that sucked that just happened. And I understand that's frustrating, but you got to move on. Like, remember the days that you were at the peak.
Right.
You know that those peaks are going to happen again.
Sure.
You've just got to be willing to work towards them.
I think a perfect example of this, at least in my life, is travel. And I know that we've talked about travel before, but like travel is both infuriating and refreshing and enlightening at the same time. If you've ever been into an airport, infuriating. Like that whole process of, okay,
carrying luggage.
Right. How long does it take us to get to the airport?
Yeah.
Did we leave on time?
Yep.
Now we got to fight with some traffic. Now we got to park the car. Now we got to then take the luggage. Now we got to get into the airport. Now we got to do the whole scanning thing. Like that is infuriating, and it is part of the bitter. But then when you get to that destination, embrace like what you've had to go through to then understand, yes, I have to go through this bitter to get to what I want to do.
Right.
If I had to do a 6-hour plane ride to then have Alaskan king crab right off the boat in, Seattle.
Mississippi. Oh, no.
Right. Or, I had to endure a 4-hour flight to Maine to then go to this one little lobster shack to have like the best lobster ever.
Right.
But like I had to endure that flight. And like, it wasn't great. That was bitter. But on the other side of that bitter is something awesome. And I get to like have that experience.
I also kind of like, again, I see it as a challenge
Right.
a lot of times where it's how much, it's like working out. Like how much pain can you endure?
Exactly.
And then how euphoric are you going to be when you get through that workout and look back and see what you just accomplished? Because it was a lot of hard work. It sucked every second of it. But I'm really proud of what I was able to accomplish and get through on the other side of it. And I'm much stronger for it.
Right. I mean, in that case, physically.
Yeah.
Or, I had to endure the loss of a very close friend. And like this moment and these weeks, they suck. Like all of this sucks. But like, what have I learned about myself? What have I gotten I got the chance to have that person in my life.
Right.
And like what that means to me and what I've learned from that. Like you have to look at those situations like, yes, this is bitter. This is terrible. But what have I learned from that? And that's like the embracing part.
Right.
Like I understand that these things happen. And how can I overcome it? How can I become better?
And that's where growth comes from.
Right.
Like there's not a lot of growth that's going to happen in those perfect, idyllic times. Like there's a lot more growth. There's a lot more structure that's going to be created in those dark, hard times.
Yeah. I'm thinking like the best times in my life, everything was so good that like they didn't really make a big impression, but all the hard times, they made a huge impression. Those hard times are what shaped who I am. And I can look back at those hard times and like, yeah, remember that? Yeah, that sucked. Let's not do that again. Or,
Right.
Remember that? That sucked. Here's how that made us better.
Right.
And you just kind of take stock of that. But like, you're on vacation, you're sitting on a beach somewhere and like you remember the holistic kind of thing of like, oh, that was a great vacation. But you tend not to remember the individual moments. You tend not to remember like, this is what I learned from that. Like I learned that I can sit on the beach and sip Mai Tais. Awesome. Like anybody can do that.
I don't know. I kind of look at it the other way of like, I look back at those hard times and how disgusting they were. And I can remember obviously like moments and things like that. But I feel like the overarching long-term hard times are just as easily forgotten. And it's easier to think about all the different happy times where I was like, very like, that was fantastic. That was a great day. That was a great meal. That was a great evening kind of a thing. I think it's just the balance of things. Like I can think of like really awful days, but I can also just as likely remember really amazing, fantastic days.
Right.
It's just the balance of all of it.
I think you're right. Like it all comes down to balance, and it comes down to recognizing that balance. As we wrap it up, the recognition that the bitter exists and the recognition that like you need both in concert with one another. You need those really low bass notes, and you need those really high treble notes to even it all out. And that's what makes it all work. That's what makes that piece of music, I guess, in terms of the metaphor here, that's what makes it all work.
Right. I like bitter in my whiskey. That's all I'm saying. I like a nice, strong bitter. I embrace it.
Back to the whiskey real quick.
Yes, sir.
Now that you sat with it for a little while, final thoughts.
Honestly, I'm surprised by it. Like,
Okay.
In a positive way. Like, I haven't heard a lot of glowing reviews about Larceny. So
No.
my expectations were pretty low on what it was going to be. I thought it was, based off of like other weeders that I've had, like this is good.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm really interested in putting it up against some of the bigger names in weeded bourbon. I like the sweet notes that you get out of this. I'm a little less inclined to like it in terms of like no roller coaster, but I think that's just the style. And that I recognize that and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see like in a blind, where does it hit?
Yeah,
Where
does
does
it
it land?
fall?
Because maybe this is just because like this is so one note and so sweet and it's a friendly note that based off of the other drinks that we just had, which there were some really dominant bitters,
Right.
this is just kind of, tasting more bright and cheerful.
Sure.
So maybe it's solely that.
Maybe.
But you put it in a lineup with a whole bunch of weeders, it's got to land somewhere.
Absolutely. Hey, one more time. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for buying us this bottle.
Absolutely. Check another one off the list.
Yeah,
Never
absolutely.
done
Add
Larceny.
it to the list and check it off that other list.
Yep. Glad to have done it now.
Yeah, me too. And if you want to be like Ben and donate a bottle to Drip and Stone, just get in touch with us and let us know, hey, we're going to send you this bottle and we'll be on the lookout for it.
Yeah. Tell us, or just tell us, hey, you need to do this review on this one.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to try to find that ourselves.
We'll go out and find that bottle.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. If it's a 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle, we're probably not going to be able to find that
Y'all
bottle.
really got to go try the Buffalo Antique Collection.
Yeah,
Cool. We're gonna need some help.
Great. But what if you've got a local whiskey that's in your area that you're like, hey, these people need to figure this out and know about this bottle? Let us know that, because I find that more interesting.
Me too.
So we want to know your thoughts on embracing the bitter. How do we balance out our life? How do we balance out this sweet and bitter notes of our lives?
Yeah, absolutely. Is that a personal mantra that you also try to improve upon, making it easier to get through those bitter moments and look forward to the brightness? Let us know.
And if you've had a chance to try the John E. Fitzgerald Larceny Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, again, am I off my rocker? Like, I know I don't hardly ever see positive words said about it, but I don't. Based off of this, I don't understand why. I totally thought it was 100% fine.
100%.
It's not my
fine.
favorite thing that I've ever had, but it's definitely not the worst.
Definitely not. It's a weeded bourbon.
I totally think it's fine.
I bet you it could stand up to Weller. I do.
I'm saying I'm really curious. Like, I mean, Weller's going to drown it with proof. The 107 it will.
Oh,
anyway,
well, sure.
But the special reserve.
Special reserve.
Yeah, no, I totally would not be surprised at all if it beat that out.
You can get in touch with us through email at dripandstone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us through social media.
It's one word, Drip and Stone. DRUP and Stone. Come find us and like us, share a thing, comment on a thing, and
Tick a talk a tick.
yeah, totally. Tick that talks and talk that ticks and gram the instas and book those faces.
Nailed it.
Perfect.
If you want to support the podcast, you can do so through our Buy Me a Coffee page. It's buymeacoffee.com/dripandstone. Keeps the AC working, Kyle.
We need it. We're getting into those hot months.
Well, we've been there for a little bit.
Today was nice.
Even though it's nice outside, the AC is still on.
It's true.
You can support the podcast by rating it wherever you find great podcasts like this one. And finally, Kyle, probably the best way to support the podcast,
Words from your mouth to another human being.
Zier.
Yes.
Yeah. To another human being, Zier.
Gotcha.
Indeed. Yeah.
Benzinger.
Benzinger. Just tell someone. That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
You're at the DMV.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You're going to be there for a couple hours.
You're going to be there for a couple hours. You're
going to be listening to Drip and
Sure.
Stone.
Yeah. You turn to that other person who's probably playing on their phone anyway and be like, hey, I know you're playing Wordle, but listen, go over to Drip and Stone right quick.
Hey, is that a bottle of Larceny in your pocket? These guys are talking about Larceny right now.
At the DMZ.
Yeah.
Or DMV, not DMZ.
Cool.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
May your glass overflow.
And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Pardon? He's Nick.
I'm Kyle. You're Kyle.
Yep.
Is that how that works?
Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Tonight
There we
on the Drip and Stone podcast. You know it.
There it is.
Nickname in college?
It was more just fast.
Gotcha.
That is a terrible sentence. I like the top of this.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Coincidentally, that's the name of the master distiller at Jim Beam,
Scotty?
Scotty Russell.
No joke.
I know that you, for dinner, have a 12-course meal every day. And I get that. Like, that's your thing.
Right. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Uh-huh.
Breakfast, lunch, and
Yeah,
dinner.
yeah. I mean, they're like 2-hour
12-course meals every day. It's tough.
I think what we're... Sorry.
Hard cut. Toughen up, Buttercup.
Where's that hat from? I mean, it goes perfectly with what you're wearing.
I know.
I meant to tell you that earlier.
I know.
Like, it's like you composed it, like you thought about it.
I did.
You even got some dark blues in there and dark blue pants.
I know.
So fashionable.
Aesthetics.
So fashionable. About Drip and Stone. Is that a bottle of Larceny in your pocket or you just happy to see me?
No, it's bottle of Larceny.